Hi, everyone. It's so good to see you here. I'm really excited for this one. With my background in events and it being event season, sponsorship is one of those things that is top of mind for everyone and they're trying to figure out. But before we dive in, I have a few quick housekeeping notes. So, we are hosting this session through StreamYard webinar. This session is being recorded and we'll share the replay afterwards. Please drop the questions in the chat as we go. You don't need to wait till the end. We will be keeping an eye on that chat and weaving the questions in during the AMA portion. And we've also pulled some questions that were submitted during the registration. So thank you so much for everyone who shared those questions prior. Let's keep this simple. We're here to share what's actually working, what's not, and hopefully give you a few things you can try right away. Today's session is called Creating Sponsorship Programs for Growth with Ed Byers from CanRev Collaborative. A quick overview on how today will run. So Ed's going to kick us off with a short learning segment to frame things out. Then I'll guide a few curated questions based on what was shared during that registration. And then we'll open the floor up to the live questions and what you've shared in the chat. And just a reminder, this is a facilitated community first conversation. So please, please, please put those questions in the chat as we go. So I'm honored to introduce Ed. So Ed has over 15 years of experience in the association and not-for-profit sector. Ed has helped organizations generate over $5 million in new revenue through strategies including sponsorship, partnership, education programs, membership drives, events, fundraising, and more. Ed's passion lies in helping associations think differently about revenue, moving beyond the traditional models to discover what's possible. He's committed to working with you to build strategies that are not only innovative, but also practical and aligned with your mission. Ed, I'll hand it over to you.
Right on. Thanks, Nicole. Can you hear me okay? Testing,
Perfect.
testing. All right. I can't see anybody, so it feels weird. I want to be like, how's everybody doing? But it's so nice to be here. Thank you for having me. Thanks for inviting me to talk about what I love the most and what I do sort of live and breathe. And I've got my dog here who's also might bark. So I may go on mute if the dog starts barking, but the joys of remote work and everything else. So excited to be here again. As Nicole said, my name's Ed Byers. And about 3.5 years ago, I started my company and we support associations, charities, not-for-profits, really around fund development growth. So we help with a lot of sponsorships, some advertising sales, charitable fundraising, major gifts, these kinds of things to really help groups think differently about their fund development strategy and how they're, raising funds. As we all know, a frequent call that we get is, hey, our grants are running out. How do we got to backfill a couple $100,000. How do we do more with less, which is also a bit of a common theme. So over the next sort of 12 to 14 minutes, I'm going to give like a very quick, here's sponsorship in a nutshell. And each one of these slides could be an entire presentation on its own. But please, 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 I work best when there's questions and conversation and all that kind of stuff. So please put any questions you have in the chat. So just a very quick Kickstarter conversation. Just throw it in the chat, a yes or a no. Who's currently running a sponsorship program of some kind? Yes, yes, yes. Great. Cindy's yes. Great. Awesome. I'm glad that most of you are yes, because otherwise, maybe why would you be here unless you want to learn how to start one? And perhaps how is the program doing? And I asked this and it's okay. I feel like we're in a safe space. How is it doing? And what I mean by that, are revenues going up? Are revenues going down, or are they staying the same? So even just a one line in the chat, up, down, stay the same. I just want to get a sense of sort of from everybody up. Great. Good job, Nicole. About the same. Thanks, Cindy. About the same from Scott. Thanks, Barbara. Great. Well, it just, there's no sort of, they're asking for more data and analytics. Absolutely. Um, we're going to talk a little bit about that. And just before I kick to the next slide, pop in any challenges that you might be having, because we can address those throughout the questions as well. Like, what kind of challenges are you having with your sponsorship program? I know Barbara just put in there, people asking for more data and analytics. That could be a potential challenge, right? People are asking for more. Hey, with the ability for people to spend their money in way more places now, you really got to be competitive. Thanks, Laura, for sharing the steady Eddie for your sponsorship. Maybe we'll go to the next slide. Revenue is going down, yeah, and none of these answers are. I did this exercise on the last webinar I did, and it was about. It was actually surprised me that there were as many going up, but the majority was staying the same or going down slightly. Um, so these are just questions I want you to think about in the next sort of 8, 9 slides that I have. Is what do you want from your sponsorship program? Typically, if you're a charity or association or not for profit, I want more money. I need more money. And the amount of times I get asked, hey, we've got to bring in another. I literally had a client not that long ago say, I need another $100,000 before the end of our fiscal. How can we do it? We need more money. Can we get more sponsors? And so these are the things that the organization wants, the charity, the association, the not-for-profit. You want more money. Typically, that's where the sort of the need comes from. Enhanced event experience. These are things like, hey, if we have really good sponsorship program, this is actually going to increase our event attendee experience. We're going to have really cool activations. We're going to have really, elevated partnership, elevated event experience through our partnerships, and also, enhanced brand reputation. Right? I say this anytime I start with a charity. I say it's okay to take a little bit less on the first couple of partners so that people look, because sponsors will look. Who else do you have? Oh, you don't have anybody? It's a little bit of like that cool kids club, right? Who else do you have? Oh, you have this airline or you have this company. Maybe we should consider actually becoming a sponsor. So having logos, having affiliation with big companies, um, it is sort of this unintended consequence of having a sponsorship program, right? Typically the need is we need more money, and we want a more elevated experience, but there are some other things that come out of having a really cool and unique sponsorship program. I see that somebody's wrote, yeah, the grant funding for 1 year term, 1 year term, 2 year term, but I've seen it a number of times where it's my grant's about to run out and we've hired all these people. How do we maintain that level of funding? I'm just sort of looking and going back and forth, but maybe we'll go to the next slide. So we know kind of what we want selfishly. We're like, hey, we're the charity. We need this. We need more money. These are the things we want to do. What does your sponsor want? And I don't want this to get lost in the sauce, so to speak, because this is how we're going to talk about elevating the sponsor program. What do they want? And the first thing I'll say is have you asked your sponsor what they want? This is critically important that you talk to your sponsor, and ask sort of the questions of what are your objectives? What are you hoping to achieve with this? And what is your budget? Um, do you want website visits? I had a sponsor once that was like, hey, it was my first role in the business development. It was actually my first maybe 6 months on the job at the Canadian Society of Association Executives, CSE. And there was a company that came in and they said, we really want, we're going to put our logo up on the website. We're going to become a corporate partner. And then, 6 months, a year went by and it was renewal time. And they said, how many clicks did I get on the website? I said, oh my gosh, probably not that many. I haven't been tracking. Let me look. And it was, a couple hundred or something like that. And she said, oh, well, we didn't get any conversions. And I said, it was a lesson that I learned, because I said, oh my gosh, from the beginning, I should have been very clear with you. Putting your logo on our website isn't going to drive conversions for you. It's going to elevate your presence. It's going to say, it's going to give you the ability to say, hey, we're partners, but you still have to have promotions. You have to talk about things. You have to be out in the community to drive people to go to your website. Just putting a logo is not going to do it. That's not going to get you the conversions you need. So asking the sponsor, what if I had known that, I would have asked for it from the beginning. What are you looking for? Do you want website visits? Do you want email addresses and lead generation? Do you want them to buy something from you? Do you want a quote at our conference? Or do you just want brand recognition? Do you want, or is it more of a philanthropic spend where you're like, I'm going to support this charity, but I also want to showcase that I am supporting this charity? So where does it fall? Because what you can do with that information is then sort of steer them in the direction of all of the things that you have to offer. So we know what we want. Asking our sponsors what they want is important within reason of what we can offer, right? We can't make things up, but it allow you to steer the conversation and steer potential sponsors into things that might make sense for them. I'll hit you on the next slide. So we kind of know what we want. We know what the sponsor wants. And now it gets into like, these are, and again, this is a bit of a crash course, but please feel free to email me after. Now you've got your assets. What do we have to sell? Like if I'm a charitable organization and I'm thinking, what do I have to sell people? What do people want? Is it more of a philanthropic give? Is it a conference that I have where I'm connecting, people that have buying power with my individuals? Is it, what do I have to sell? And how do I value that? So what do I have to sell? I take stock of all the things that I think would be valuable to sponsors. And I've already asked what's important to sponsors. So I kind of know, hey, they want website traffic, they want leads, they want brand recognition. So how do I fit that into the things that we already have? I have groups come and they're like, we're going to create a new event because we need to make $50,000. They say, well, how can you make $50,000 in the things that you're already doing? So before you start going and creating new, look at the stuff you already have and see if you can make another $10,000 at your conference and another 15,000 at your professional development or your another event that you're doing or a board retreat, or can somebody sponsor your board retreat or your board dinner, these kinds of things. Then you start thinking, okay, I know what I want. I know what the sponsors want. I kind of start to value these things, and what the price is. And again, you can go through the full valuation process, but as my real estate agent would say, your house is only worth what somebody else will pay for it. And you'll know when you put those prices out there, what's the uptick? Are people, if I have a lot of sponsors, maybe I can increase my prices. If nobody's biting, maybe my prices are too high. So just in a very quick way, when you look at your pricing, I would do a competitive analysis and see who else is charging what. What do they have to offer? Who is a similar organization to you? Maybe it's in another country, another state, another province, and then you can kind of look and see what they're doing. Okay, next slide. Then you've got your assets. You kind of know, I've asked my sponsor what they want. I kind of know what I have to sell. I kind of know what it's worth. Now I have to put it into some form of a document that people can review. Um, I've, we want to be flexible with our sponsors. We want to be customizable, but there also is this need or desire for being somewhat prescriptive. So saying, hey, these are the things that we have to offer. It's not going to be, too far of a deviation from there, because we maybe can't offer it. Or depending on your price tag, we'll get super customized. So if you have $10,000 plus, we'll give you more things and we'll be customized. But for a booth at your conference or your event, there's not really a lot of customizing that needs to happen, right? It's like it's $1,500. It's here's the booth, here's the table and chairs, and here's what power you get, and your logo placement. You can't customize everything for everybody. So you do have to have some kind of document sponsorship prospectus that you can share with people. When I say sometimes people put these together and you have this, we as people that live and breathe our organizations have this natural desire to include everything. People get overwhelmed. I had a meeting yesterday with a potential client. And he's like, we've got probably 12 different events and different things to sell. We're getting lost. People are, by the time I bring up the fourth thing we have to sell, the people have tuned out. So I've suggested that why don't we create a 2 to 3 page introductory document, a 1 to 2 page introductory document with prices starting at X. And it gives people a snapshot. We're doing this, we're doing this piece around schools. We're doing this piece around, healthy living. We're doing this piece around mental health. And it all starts at whatever price. So then you can kind of guide people. Oh, I'm really interested in youth mental health. I'm really interested in healthy living and activity. Okay, great. Then I can steer you from there into the 2 or 3 specific projects that we're doing on this particular thing. So having something that's easy for people to read, it's like I joke that it's like, how long do they say people spend on a resume? 30 seconds. So it's kind of the same thing. People aren't spending a ton of time. So make it easy for people to understand what you have to sell. I've only got about 3 slides left. We'll go to the next slide. Um, Prospecting and selling. So you've asked your sponsor, you know what you have to sell, you kind of know the price, you built your sales document. Now you got to go out and sell it. I put this thing, who said fundraising here is stressful? I'm 25 and I feel great. Like, who cares about your event? Who do you think would be good? And I sort of mentioned this before. Start looking around at other competitors and see who's sponsoring their event. And pull, like, say these 3 companies sponsor their event, they probably would be a good fit for us. And I mention this all the time. Everybody in your organization has to be a salesperson. Sometimes people think of sponsorship as this necessary evil. Oh, we just need more money. Can you get a sponsor? But then we don't want to deliver on it. If you're not delivering on it, everybody in that hand-holding process of a sponsor has to have that bit of that white glove service, right? Like, you have to be from the salesperson to the end delivery person. And sometimes it's the same person. You have to everybody has to be on the same page and understand the value of a sponsor and the value that the sponsor brings. Typically, sponsors have big budgets and they have really good thought leadership and experience. So don't discount them sometimes if you're thinking about speaking opportunities. Um, I'm going to come back to Anna's question in a second because I'm almost done my slides, and then we're going to switch into that. So everybody in your organization has to be a salesperson. We'll keep going. Thanks, Nicole. So now you're out there selling, you're looking at prospects, you've got your prospect list of your current sponsors, and then you start researching other companies. There are tools out there where you can find people's emails and contacts, and you can start to actually reach out to new leads. Then you've sold all the sponsorships, you've got your grid, you know what everybody's purchased. Now you got to deliver on it. And so this is a picture I put in with a destination that came to us and said, I got this idea. You have your big trade show. We're hosting the Great Cup. We're hosting a big, football event, and we want to kind of draw attention to that. Do you think we could do like snack carts and roam the exhibit hall? Never had done it before, but I was like, yeah, why not? Let's give it a try. So they paid a sponsorship fee. We worked it out together. It was really cool. It was really well done. And now they've done it before. The same group, we had a retreat style event, and they sponsored the golf cart shuttle. So because the resort was so big, so they would shuttle people around to their rooms, up to the reception. And it gave them an opportunity to talk to delegates, in a seat with them one at a time, right? Also from a brand visibility perspective. Also know whatever you charge, that the sponsors should spend a bit of money on their actual activation. So, and again, I talked about this beginning, actually making your event really cool. So like doing these kinds of things actually enhances your event experience. The last question I have on this is pop in the chat, but if anybody does fulfillment reports, what this means, all it is we did what we said we would do. Here's a report saying, here's how many clicks you got. Here's the visibility you got. Here's the picture of you at the event. Here's all the things that we said we would do in our agreement, and we did them. And this makes it easy for that person to go to their boss and be like, hey, look at the impact that this sponsorship had. Let's do it again next year. And it doesn't have to be overly complicated. We have some groups where it's like there's 100 sponsors, but the template is still the same. We sub out a couple of different things, so at least they get a thank you report of some kind on the deliverables. Okay, next slide. And then I think this is my last slide, but and then how do you take your program to the next level, right? You've got an event, you've got a thing over here, you've got all of these things over here. How do you take it and pull it all together into maybe a corporate partner program? So it's like you've got all of your event sponsors, you've got a professional development sponsor, you've got a sponsor of a particular program or a program, let's say. How do you say, hey, for an extra 10,000, you can get all of these other things as part of our organizational, like a national partner, and give them other things to incent them to come up to that next sort of level, and give them smaller touch points, right? As you lead up to your events, like how do you, this does, we'll say, hey, we're not just talking to you that one time of the year. We're talking to you throughout the year, right? We've got these other, we can offer you a webinar, a podcast, an e-newsletter, whatever it might be, so that they're now engaged with your organization all year round, not just when that one event or that one program. I think that is it. Hey, Nicole. Yeah, perfect. So I think we'll probably switch it over to Q&A time.
Amazing. That was really great, Ed. Thank you so much. I think there's a lot that you shared there that's really starting to connect, and they can really start to put into their own work today. So that was super helpful. Thank you.
Flash
I'm going
course
to
in 15 minutes on sponsorship.
It was impressive, very quick and
Mhm.
efficient. I
Yeah.
am also just going to mention that Ed's email and LinkedIn, please do check him out there. Ed was kind enough to offer 15-minute brainstorming sessions to chat through any sponsorship problems, because I know oftentimes this can be like a unique problem based on your specific event or circumstance. So please, please, please do reach out to Ed directly to do some of those 15-minute phone calls. And I'm going to pull a few questions that came through the registration because there were some really consistent themes across the board, especially around where to start, how to stand out, and honestly, how to not waste time. So for the first one, I personally, I've been in events for years, and I'm watching the landscape shift kind of under our feet. And I'm wondering, when you think about sponsorship today, what's actually changed in the last few years? And what are most nonprofits still getting wrong?
Yeah, it's a good question. I feel like one of the things that, I won't talk about COVID, but one of the things that, I think what we sort of need to think about is the less transactional. Like, and I'm probably going to talk a little bit about this later, but as we talk about we're inundated with advertisements and you're on Instagram and you keep getting peppered with, Google ads and Instagram ads and all these things. People are kind of reverting back to the handshake deal. People are kind of reverting back to like trusted referrals. And so making it less transactional, making it more of a true partnership, versus like, hey, just pay for this thing that we have. And then, oh, great, it's renewal time. Haven't heard from you in 9, 10 months. So really engaging them in your organization versus thinking of them as like this bag of money that's like, thanks for that, we'll take it, and see you in a year. So I don't think I think that's true of all organizations that not that they're doing that, but that they need to think a bit more about that. And it's a capacity issue too, right? People are like, I don't have capacity to be having. One of the things I'll do with groups is we do a monthly check-in with sponsors over a certain amount, saying we pull up the deliverable tracker. Hey, here's all the things we said we would do. We're on track. Scheduling webinars, whatever, I know somebody in the Anna put in here, is it just events or is it other stuff? It's all the things that your organization has. So it's like in getting them to do more with you. So that's through events, through program specific training, whatever you have, but making sure that you are valuing the partnership. Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah, it's 100%. I think there is a lot, and we can get caught in that grind. There's so many programs, there's so many activities. And if we forget to steward throughout the year and like continue that conversation, it will feel like Scrooge McDuck moneybags kind of idea. So yeah, I really appreciate those perspectives. And then I'm curious, with smaller or newer organizations, there was a lot of questions about how to just start a fundraising event. So they're kind of wondering, and especially without like a big brand or social following, what actually works when it comes to attracting sponsors?
Yeah, honestly, it's like whether you're big or you're small, and I think typically in our space as nonprofits, we're always sort of punching above our weight. It's like we have a staff of 3, we have a staff of 10, but we're operating like we have a staff of 20. So I think it doesn't necessarily, it's really about demonstrating your impact. So like whether you're asking for major gifts, a fundraising, sponsorship, demonstrating where like how that money's, sort of being used, not so much on the sponsorship, but demonstrating the impact that you have. And I only bring that up because, as obviously if you're getting a major gift, you're gonna want to put an impact report together for people and be like, hey, thank you, A, and B, this is sort of loosely, if it's an unrestricted, or if it's unrestricted, you still kind of want to tell them where the money went. And to some degree, here's the impact you've had. So I think as a smaller organization, like leverage the impact that you have versus the size of your organization. So you can say, hey, the other thing I mentioned too is that having some sponsors, even at a lower amount in the beginning, not a bad thing, because then people come
Yeah.
and look and you're like, oh, you have an airline, you have a whatever. And they're like, okay, people are paying attention to this. Like sometimes people get so hung up on the value. And I'm like, yeah, but if you're starting out and you don't have many sponsors and you're a small organization, it's kind of okay to take a little less just to bring in others. Like it is a weird thing, but people ask, who else do you have? And it's like, well, don't you want to be the first? Like I get this a lot with the charitable groups that we work with, and I'm like, why don't you be the trendsetter, folks? Like, who cares who? Like, what does that matter? Who else is in? But it does. Like people are like, oh, you don't have like. So sometimes bringing people in in any kind of form at the beginning, if they're a good big brand, it's okay.
Yeah, and I actually recently had a group I was working with, and they, whenever you talk to somebody like, well, who should we add to our prospect list? They always say the big names first, right? They are not thinking
Right.
of the people who naturally like align or value align. It's like this big
Totally.
organization in the community. Let's talk to them. They're getting bombarded with requests.
I literally said this yesterday, Nicole. Somebody was like, in this client, potential client, and he was like, oh, we have the banks and the restaurants, whatever. And I said, everybody's natural reaction is like, let's go to the banks. And I'm like, great. You and every other charity are going to that same bank
Yeah.
and you're all filling out the same portal. How about the widget maker or the like construction company that doesn't really get asked, but is $100 million company that has pillars of CSR or has, pillars that can align with your sponsorship program that aren't inundated because they're the obvious fits. Like, like what, anyway, yeah, it absolutely. I think you're bang on.
And I find it funny too, oftentimes, like those organizations might be excited to participate in your event.
Yeah.
Like they do genuinely want to give back to their community. But that $500 level is also just giving, or that lower tier level is also just getting them like into the door
Yeah.
to learn
Into
more
the
about
door.
your
Totally. Yeah, bring them in, get them to follow the journey, be on the journey with you, get them excited.
work.
Like
Mhm.
I'd rather have somebody giving something and being a part of the cause than than sorry, thanks so much, our price tag was out of reach. Like try and figure it out. Like
Yeah.
unless you're like a massive, massive group and you have other like thousands, like hundreds of other partners paying certain levels, and you have that because some do, like some are like they have a very rigid program. But in the case of that we're talking about here on the smaller ones, for sure, that have flexibility, be open.
So that ties nicely into like building that pipeline. So how do you move from we need sponsors, which so many of us come at it from, to actually building that pipeline? How do you know when someone's ready for a proposal?
Good question. And I think there's a couple of different things. Like with me specifically, like sponsorship sales is a bit of a everything in sales is a bit of a numbers game. There's an expression in sales, they say chase the no. And so getting a no is a good answer. Like getting a turn down is great because if they give you a maybe, it's 10 times worse because you've got to chase them, you've got to follow up, and then they give you a no 3 months later. It's like, don't make me chase you if you are not interested. Just tell me you're not interested and I can move along. So when you're stewarding that initial process, so it is a bit of a numbers game. So I'm of the mindset of just try it out, like figure it out, reach out to anybody that you think might be interested. And if you get a bite, if somebody's interested, they have a call, and then you sort of see my questions in that process are, what are your objectives? What are you hoping to achieve? Why us? Why would you be interested in us? And what's your budget range? Like if you can offer a budget range, that will help me scope a proposal for you. If we're talking $1,000, it's going to be very easy for me to give you a standard package of exhibit booth or logo or whatever. But if you're talking 10 to 15,000, I might be able to, I have some flexibility in where I might sort of steer you. So in that pipeline, like one of the processes we do is we have a tracker, and it's like we have, you know, stages for people. So like cold lead, warm lead, first phone call, like there's stages that you can actually do in the sales cycle so that you're like, these are the ones that are sort of warm. And then you continue to follow up with them. And I think, um, you'll kind of inherently know when they're ready for a proposal because you'll ask them like, hey, like you are interested. I've understood what your objectives are after a phone call. I've understood what your budget range is, hopefully. And you then follow up with the proposal and then you chase them until they tell you I'm not interested. Or, oh, I went to my
Yeah.
boss and you've pitched me at 20,000, but I went back to my boss and my budget's only 10. Okay, well, let's shave a little bit off of that. Or what area did you like the most? So everybody's in your pipeline until they're not.
That's totally fair. I do have a question about how do you get in front of somebody sometimes? Like getting that phone call to have
Mhm.
that conversation, I find can sometimes be tricky or a little intimidating maybe.
Yeah, and I see Scott kind of wrote the same question to here, but yeah, honestly, like I said, don't be afraid of getting a no. A no is a good answer. I've always found it sort of easier to sell for charities and associations and nonprofits than like selling a product because it's like I'm always kind of like, how could you say no to me? How could you say no to this amazing group? Um, but or if you're going to say no, you're probably going to be polite because you're not like, oh, I'm selling you uh, you know, uh, a vehicle or something like a product, right? That I might not be interested in. And how do you find a decision maker? That's a good question. So there are tools out there that you can use to actually, you have to pay for them, but you can find, or you go to LinkedIn, or you can go to, Apollo as a tool. What's the other tool that we use? Zoom Info. You can find them, and sometimes a cold email. Hey, a cold call is different. Cold calls we still do, but cold calls sometimes nobody answers their phone anymore. So it's a little bit of a different beast. It's like, who's calling me? I don't know. You're already kind of put on guard. So I like to send at least some kind of cold email and then I follow up with a phone call. Hey, I sent an email. And you can only do that for a sort of targeted list. But you find the decision maker by title still kind of works, to be honest, Scott. Like you can't, like sometimes it's not the person, but sometimes that person might go, oh, that's not my responsibility. And typically, I find it's business development, it's marketing, like VP of marketing, smaller, mid-sized companies, CEO. Don't be shy to go higher level because the senior person will kick it down to the right person versus the other way. If you're going to the junior person, they're likely not going to. It's going to take them a longer time to kick it up the chain. So I would say finding the right title, do some LinkedIn outreach, and don't be shy. Like, don't be afraid to reach out. It's if you're not interested, that's okay.
I fully agree with the don't be shy piece because I feel Tasha's really good at this piece where she has no problem just writing one of these big influencers or
Yeah,
somebody at like the head of an organization. And oftentimes she gets a response. Like sometimes she doesn't naturally. But it's always really fun to see who actually responds and who's really keen to get involved. And you don't know until you ask, I think is a big piece there.
totally. Yeah, and you'll know when you're bugging them, and you'll know. And if they don't respond, it's a follow up is good, and then and then you move on to the next. Honestly, getting a no is great. Move on.
It's true.
You take
So
anything away from this, no is a good answer.
yeah, it's totally fair. Because it is a time suck when that maybe drags on. I fully agree with you, and it can be frustrating when you finally get that no 3 months later, like you
Totally.
said. So, what makes a sponsorship opportunity genuinely compelling today, beyond logos, and what should a strong sponsor tier actually include? And I think this is a two-part question too, because I feel like there's people in here who are looking at programming, some people looking at events, and then some
Yep.
people in like an association space. So, just to make it even more challenging to answer that
Yeah.
question.
I think the biggest thing is you asking them what's the most compelling thing for them because everybody's going to be different. So it's like, are you interested in the impact we have? Are you interested in getting in front of our audience? Are you interested? Specifically for charity, sometimes it's challenging because it's like, hey, spend money with us, but then you have to go activate it. Like if you don't have a big audience of buying power, like maybe like an association would have, like 100 dentists or 1,000 dentists or whatever, versus like, hey, this is the work we do. You got to kind of pay us a rights fee, but then you kind of have to market it. You have to sort of sell it, and we have to work together on what that looks like. That can become a little bit more challenging. But asking them what's important, like why is this important to you? Because everybody is going to be different, and then steering into um, logo placement is not dead because I'll tell you, if you miss a logo on a banner,
They
they
notice.
will tell you, they'll notice. So it's not dead, but it's not a driver. Like I don't think but it's not like people think, oh, I'll just put the logo up and you have to have it. Like it has to be part of your package. But the customization of it, like, are you really interested in a program? Are you really interested in, as a charity, like we're doing some international work on this? Like, is that a really good fit? I'm making this up, but like you're doing an international program on, whatever. Hey, UPS does a lot of international, giving. How do I connect with the right corporate giving person there to fund projects that we're doing? Because that's what's important to them. You see on their website, they give to these types of projects. We're a charity that does, you know, um, I don't know, I'm making this up again, renewable energy. So how do we in different parts? So how do we find like-minded companies where it's a bit of a sponsorship, but maybe it's also a bit of a philanthropic give.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
So it does. And on that topic, so for somebody who maybe has like an event sponsorship and they've built out this sponsorship package, would you recommend having these conversations before you finalize a sponsorship package, or maybe go to like past sponsors? What if it's a new event? Curious, like how you actually pull in these pieces when you already have maybe something to go to market.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think just have something that you go to market with, but remain flexible. And you could ask people ahead of time, be like, hey, there's a line that's like, ask for money, people give you advice, ask for advice, people give you money. So it's kind you could go back to some repeat sponsors and say, hey, I just want your advice on this. Here's the package we put together. What do you think? Like, is this something you'd go for? Like, I'm not putting you on the spot. You don't have to purchase a sponsorship, but like, would you just take a look at it for me? Like, pass it by your top three sponsors and be like, these are some new things we're thinking about. Like, what do you think the appetite would be? And do different industries or different, verticals or different segments. And you kind of go like, hey, like, what do you think? And then they might be like, this is really cool. I want to be a part of this, right? Or like, not for us. And these are the reasons why. And you go, oh, I didn't think of that. So if you've got these true partnerships and good relationships, you should feel comfortable kind of saying, hey, like my favorite is when you have a longtime sponsor and then you're like, I'm trying something new. And you're like, I know exactly who I can go to try this out. And if it flops, you just give them a bit like I've done that for them. Like this may flop, but I think it's a good idea. However, if it does flop, I'll give you like a discount on your next year sponsorship. Like
Right.
roll with me here. Like it's okay. Like just well, I think this is going to be cool. And if it does, be like, okay, that didn't totally work out, but instead of paying 10 next year, I'm only going to charge you 7 or 5. And sometimes they're like, don't even worry about it. Like we want to try things new and we want to try new things and do things differently. And so yeah, if that does
I
that make
like
sense?
that. I think it's smart too. Like, and I always found that asking for advice was a great entry point into a lot of these conversations, because a lot of people have opinions, ideas on how they would do it. And it's like, oh, I'd love to hear. And when you are more of an open, curious conversation about it, I do find they get excited and can see
Yeah.
themselves in that space. So I love the framing there. I do want to pull a question that came in from the audience here. And I'm not going to say this name right, and I apologize. Oimide Aomide, as a partner manager, how do we compete with other orgs to fund programs? Is it best to focus on events or engagement?
Yeah, I saw that question come in when we were talking about being a small organization, and I think some of the same things apply, right? It's like, how do you compete with other organizations? Well, it's all in your value proposition. Like, what makes you different? Sets you apart from other folks, and what's interesting to the partner? So it depends. Like, sometimes events are a great way to break. We have a charity that we work with now, and they have an annual gala, and that's like I like to say, it's like that's the showcase. That's your opportunity at a dinner to show people all the amazing stuff that you're doing. And people, you can go either way on a gala. Like, are they old school? Are they still in the, I don't, it's working for some and and some folks don't care for it. But in any event, it's an opportunity. Whatever your event is an opportunity to make people fall in love with you. Programs can be great because it's totally aligned. If you can't get those people onto the program, physically to see it, like it's hard, right? It's like the person that's giving the money and it's like, we're doing this amazing program in wherever country, whatever we're doing. And this is our impact report. That's great. But you can't engage that person that holds the purse strings the exact same way. So on an event, you're like, or it's both, where it's like, hey, you're funding our program, but we're going to invite you to our event. So it's like, hey, charitable giving person XYZ, you're giving us $50,000 for this program, but we're going to invite you to the other things because we want you to be engaged with our organization. Otherwise, it's like you never even meet them. You're like, thanks for the money. Here's your impact report.
Yeah.
Wow, this looks really nice on paper. I'm never going to go to that particular country or see the work that you're doing. But if I went to the gala and I'm surrounded by all the people that are championing your organization, I'm going to feel pretty good leaving that room. So I think the short answer is it's a mixture, depends on the sponsor, whatever you think would be best. Also looking at the website, like if you're trying to go after a Canadian Tire, I'm making this up, or UPS, whatever it is, you kind of say like, hey, this is what they're into. Like this is what they give to. So, it's this is what I should probably lead with. I'm a Dick's Sporting Goods store. I'm brand, I'm probably gonna, and I'm a sport organization. I see they fund youth stuff. I'm probably gonna go on a program, a youth related program as my entry point. And then we might have other events that we can invite them to. I, yeah, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I love the Canadian Tire reference too. Very Canadian vibe over
It's
here
right. So
right
yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah. It's right. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think I'm
it's
trying to get them for something. That's why it's
yeah,
popped in my
it's
head.
top of mind. It's totally fair. So I'm curious, and I think this is a big one too. But how do you turn a first-time sponsor into a real partner? And I know you've touched on it a lot throughout this whole conversation, but like just not having it as a one-time check, but actually building that relationship.
Yeah, it's, to me, it's engaging them. I did kind of touch on this, but it's engaging them through all the things that you're doing, inviting them to your open houses, bringing them on the journey with you versus like, hey, can I have a check? I'll see you in a year. Like, I
Yeah,
think it really is just pulling them into stuff when you think like, hey, this isn't costing us anything to invite them to this, or this isn't costing us anything to put their logo on this. Why not? Like, it's sponsors are humans and they have they can, some of my best relationships are with sponsors of organizations that we represent because it's like they get it. Like they don't have to be treated like, like an ATM. It's like, hey, I'm like, I care, you know?
yeah.
So I think bringing them into the fold where you can't is a great way to do it.
I think there's also like it's the person you're connecting with at that organization level and the organization. So you're almost like two opportunities to find that value alignment. Yes, the organization
Totally.
has their pillars of success, but the individual you're talking to also has their own personal stories and journeys presumably. So they have their own values that they naturally align with and connect with. So I think um considering both of those options or avenues and like pulling on both of those opportunities to highlight or focus on like
Absolutely.
the value alignment for the org and the individual. This was great,
Yeah,
Ed. Do you have
absolutely.
any last minute comments? I know there were a few questions. I feel like we got through most of them. But if there's any like wrap up or final thought on sponsorship, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, no, I think don't be afraid to give it a try, and hopefully this is helpful for everybody. Reach out if you have any questions. But are we moving to other questions, or we're done at 45?
1:45 is what we have
Oh,
scheduled
cool.
to.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, that's fine. I couldn't remember if it was 45 or 60.
No, it's all good.
Yeah,
I just
no.
wanted I feel like if there's any questions though, Ed, that you felt like we missed in the comments, by all
No, I
means.
don't think so. I think if anybody else pop it in the last minute, but I think, yeah, no, I think here's the thing that I think a lot of people get caught up on is perfect is the enemy of good. And it's like, oh, we need to pull together an amazing sponsorship kit. We have to have it perfect before we share with anybody. Just adjust as you go, put it out, see what people say. You will know. Like, there's no better way than just testing the market. Hey, we're starting a sponsorship program. Don't overcomplicate it. Do two little things, put it out there, see if anybody bites. Doesn't change it. If they do, they like it, evolve it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just do it. Like go out there, try it, figure it out, ask for advice, ask your sponsors, talk to them, ask what they want. You don't have to, it's like, building the airplane while it's still in the air. You don't have to have it all perfectly done before you just go out and give it a shot.
And so many of us nonprofit folks are definitely building the airplane as it's in the air.
Yeah,
I can
exactly. Totally.
It's part of the fun.
Totally.
Part of the fun. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And this has been super helpful. I think there's a lot that people are already thinking about how they can apply into their work. This was super useful for that. Also, thank you to everybody who joined and brought such thoughtful questions. There was a lot of great questions in that registration process too. So I really appreciate the conversations that we were able to have through that. We will share a replay and the resources or the offer for a quick connect with Ed for that 15-minute call. So please take him up on that. And if today sparked ideas for you, whether that's around sponsorship, partnerships, or just thinking differently about revenue, please check out some of our other AMAs and upcoming Hive events. We'd love to see you at those ones as well. So if you take one thing away, like Ed said, just try it. Sponsorship is a beast, and if you aren't willing to put yourself out there, just try it. I think it's going to help you in the long run for sure. So Ed, thank you again. Thanks to everyone, and I hope to see you at the next one.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming.